A professional American football team, the Miami Dolphins, are situated in the Miami metro region. They are a member of the American Football Conference East Division of the National Football League. At the moment, Stephen M. Ross is the team's owner. The Dolphins are Florida's first ever professional sports franchise between the four AFC East groups. In NFL history, games between the Miami Dolphins and other teams have featured some of the most compelling moments. A select few contests between these longtime adversaries stand out as some of the best ever played. A lot of them were noteworthy and entertaining to watch, whether they went in the Dolphins' favor or the other teams. Did Chad Henne play arguably his best games against the New York Giants in Monday Night Football games? Did the Oakland Raiders end Miami's historic run of Super Bowl appearances? The Dolphins and Jets played one of the most memorable Monday Night Football games of the post-Marino era. Let's find out. Here are the top 6 rivalries of the Miami Dolphins. On the 6th, we have the Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Miami Dolphins are competitors in the National Football League. Buccaneers-Dolphins rivalry. It's an interstate, inter-conference game between Florida's two oldest NFL teams. Since the Buccaneers became an expansion franchise in the league in 1976, it has been operational throughout the majority of those years. Since the clubs have played each other just once every 4 years during the regular season since they have been in different conferences since 1977, the rivalry is primarily reserved for the preseason. When Tampa Bay became an expansion franchise in the NFL in 1976, team management were eager to develop a local rivalry with the Miami Dolphins. The state's most well-known and renowned franchise was the two-time Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins, but supporters in the Tampa-St. Pete region were ecstatic to have their very own team to support. In front of a record-breaking crowd of 67,466 spectators, Tampa Bay hosted the Dolphins at Tampa Stadium for a preseason game during their expansion season. Dolphins victory 28-21. 2 months later, in Tampa, the two clubs faced off once more during the regular season. The Dolphins again prevailed by a score of 23-20 on a 29-yard field goal by Garo Yepremian with 55 seconds left in regulation. On the 5th, we have Patriots. The rivalry has a long history that extends back to the 1960s, despite not being as well known as some other rivalries. The Dolphins, who at the time were among the NFL's most successful teams, while the Patriots were among its worst, predominated the rivalry from its inception. In the early 2000s, when the Patriots started to experience sustained success that culminated in the Brady-Belichick dynasty, this pattern would reverse itself, with the Dolphins and the rest of the AFC East sinking into mediocrity. In 1985, the Patriots won the AFC Championship game against Miami to get to the Super Bowl for the first time. The rivalry became somewhat more evenly matched beginning in 1986, with the Pats going on a 7-game winning streak from 1986 to 1988. The Dolphins then retook control of the rivalry, winning 13 of the following 15 games between the two teams. Both clubs had outstanding quarterbacks in the 1990s. The Dolphins had Dan Marino, and the Patriots had Drew Bledsoe. Both quarterbacks played in at least one Super Bowl, with Marino starting Super Bowl 19 and Bledsoe starting Super Bowl 31. Through the late 1990s, the Dolphins maintained their advantage in the rivalry, sweeping the Patriots in 1999 and 2000. On the 4th, we have Bills. The Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins are rivals in the National Football League, and their rivalry is known as the Bills-Dolphins rivalry. Since the 1966 season, the teams which are part of the AFC East have played twice a year. The Dolphins have a 61-51-1 advantage in the 113 regular season meetings between the two teams as of 2022. Additionally, the clubs have faced off 4 times in the NFL postseason. The 1992 AFC Championship game was the Bills' only postseason victory, giving them a record of 3-1. The Bills and Dolphins first faced up in the postseason in the 1990s playoffs. Rich Stadium hosted the divisional round game, which Buffalo won 44-34 because of 3 touchdown passes from Kelly. The clubs reconnected in the postseason 2 years later, playing in the AFC Championship game. A Miami offensive lineman named Richmond Webb remarked on the intensity of the rivalry at the time, saying, "I don't know how it got started. It was a long time before I got here. But these two teams don't like each other. Every time we play them, it's like the game of the year." On the 3rd, we have the Raiders. The Raiders were the Dolphins' first opponents during Miami's inaugural 1966 season. In that game, Joe Auer returned the opening kickoff 95 yards for a touchdown, but the Raiders went on to win 23-14. The Raiders dominated the Dolphins in their first 21 meetings, going 16-4-1 in that span. The two teams would meet 3 times in the playoffs in the early 1970s, however. The two teams would not face each other for 2 seasons, during which Miami became the only NFL team to finish an entire season undefeated during the 1972 season. Miami's winning streak would stretch to 18 games when they faced the Raiders on the road during the 1973 season. This game, which took place at California Memorial Stadium in Berkeley due to a scheduling conflict with the Oakland Athletics at the Oakland Coliseum, saw the Raiders defeat the Dolphins 12-7 behind 4 field goals from George Blanda. Miami avenged this defeat, however, defeating the Raiders 27-10 in the AFC Championship game, en route to winning the Super Bowl VIII. In that game, Dolphins running back Larry Csonka ran for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. On the 2nd, we have the Sea of Hands. The Sea of Hands refers to a significant play during the 1974-75 NFL playoffs. The Miami Dolphins were facing the Oakland Raiders in an American Football Conference divisional playoff game on December 21st, 1974 at Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. The game was ultimately decided in the final seconds by a now iconic play in which Oakland quarterback Ken Stabler launched an 8-yard touchdown pass to running back Clarence Davis, who was seemingly tightly covered but somehow wrestled the ball away from multiple Miami defenders to secure victory for the Raiders, thus effectively ending Miami's historic run of Super Bowl appearances. The game began when rookie receiver Nat Moore returned the opening kickoff 89 yards for a Miami touchdown. Miami defensive back Dick Anderson then intercepted a pass from Stabler, and it looked like Miami might put things away early. However, fellow safety Jake Scott was hurt on the play and would miss the rest of the game. Oakland's defense made a stand to force a punt, and the Raiders would subsequently tie the game on a Stabler 31-yard touchdown pass to Charlie Smith. Scoring was otherwise limited in the first 2 quarters, with only a 33-yard field goal by Miami's Garo Yepremian breaking the tie before the half. And the first, we have the New York Jets. The New York Jets are perhaps Miami's most bitter rivals. Dolphins fans despise the Jets due to the sheer amount of New York City transplants who have moved to South Florida and the Jets' usual cocky demeanor. Just as the Bills-Dolphins rivalry is motivated by differences, the Dolphins-Jets series is also notable for the differences between New York and Miami. This rivalry has been more consistent over the years. Some of the more memorable moments in this rivalry include Dan Marino delivered one of the most memorable moments of his career during Week 13 of the 1994 season. The Dolphins and Jets battled in the Meadowlands with first place in the division on the line. The Jets controlled most of the game, and Miami committed 4 turnovers to help the Jets build a 24-6 lead. During the second half, Jets quarterback Boomer Esiason threw 2 interceptions, which left the door open for Marino and the Dolphins. The Dolphins took advantage in a big way, scoring 22 unanswered points to end the game. The Dolphins had cut the Jets' lead to 3, and then one of the most memorable drives in Dolphins history occurred. You can see the entire drive in the attached video. The Jets gave the ball back to Marino with 2:33 left to play. Marino would methodically lead the Dolphins down to the 5-yard line before the now famous play unfolded. Marino motioned that he was going to spike the ball. He then took the snap and rifled one to Mark Ingram for the go-ahead touchdown. It was Ingram's 3rd straight reception on the drive and 4th touchdown catch of the game. With 22 seconds remaining, the score was 28-24 in favor of the Dolphins, and it would stay that way. Miami would defeat the Jets and take control of the AFC East behind one of the defining moments of Marino's career.